Now, our guest today is on a mission to empower fishing communities across the nation while also making science cool and accessible for the next generation. Joining us live in the studio is scientist and content creator Dr. Chona Abeledo. Doc Chona, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
It's so exciting that we have a scientist here. You know, we just did a quiz bee the other day, and science was my favorite trivia topic.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I also learned that science here in Tagalog is ciencia. So you created a program, you know, playing with that word, she and sha. Right? Is that correct?
Yes.
So what decided you
job,
to...
Mo.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What decided you to create that, and what are the impacts of creating that program here in the Philippines?
Well, Shiensha is a pandemic baby. During that time, a lot of us were stuck at home. And as a scientist and also an educator, we were starting to learn how to shoot our videos so that we can teach our students remotely.
Okay.
But sadly, during that time, you know, fake information was all around, and it was getting very frustrating for the scientific community in the Philippines that a lot of this wrong information was spreading. And so rather than just stay at home and complain, I decided to take up the challenge and figure out, you know, why not start a science channel for Filipinos? Because we don't really see that a lot these days.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that through the show, we can make science more accessible to the Filipino people.
Yeah. I just, first of all, I want to jump in. The Tagalog of science is agham.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was ciencia.
But people actually use ciencia.
Yeah, they do,
Yeah,
but
yes.
it's technically
But it's
agham.
agham.
It's
Yeah.
agham.
Yeah.
It's like how chair is actually salampwit. But anyway,
That's too much for me today.
that's on the side. I just had to clarify para baka kasi may magalit eh. But when we look at Filipinos, it's so interesting that you mentioned that there's so much wrong information out there today. It feels like it's so much prevalent right now. My favorite example is flat earthers. When it comes to science-based misinformation going out there. And so as you're combating it and targeting yung mga Filipinos, what do you feel are some of the myths that you find yourself debunking more often than not?
Well, one of our more famous content usually has something to do with food. So, for example, whenever we eat a lot, people think that, oh, I'm dizzy because I'm having hypertension, I have high blood
Okay.
na. But it actually has a lot more to do with how the blood flows throughout your body. I mean, if you're sitting for too long, it tends to pool in portions that are constricted. And that's why when you suddenly stand up, you get dizzy.
So we should eat standing up.
Well, yes and no, I guess.
Okay.
There's benefits to it.
Yeah.
You would see that in other countries, but I think it's really, we shouldn't take too long eating, and we make sure that we're in a comfortable position when we're staying still for too long.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I know. Well, Doc Chona, you know, when I think of science and making it accessible and easy for people to comprehend, I think of Bill Nye, the science guy.
Yeah, actually.
You know, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're the Bill Nye, you're the Doc Chona, the science gal here in the Philippines. But how do you make science, because science is so complex, right? How do you make it simplified for your viewers to understand?
Well, a short video, a 5 to 10 minute video is never really enough to comprehend science in general. But the idea is to make it interesting for people. You know, what's heartbreaking is when you talk to students about science and math, they tell you, oh, I'm not interested because it's hard, it's too complicated. But you hook the youth in by talking about the fun parts, the interesting parts, the parts that have relevance to our day-to-day lives. And I think by making them interested in some of these key concepts, they would tend to have more patience in trying to figure out the complexities that will come later on.
You know, you're a STEM advocate, no, Doc. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? And of course, you represent, you know, the women in this, what do you call this? How do you call it? This division.
Space.
Yeah, this space, right? So, but still, you know, there are a lot of women in this particular field, but there's still a gender gap. You know, there are still more men, right? What do you think are, you know, the misconceptions that women may have that make them hesitate to take this field?
I think what's interesting is when you mentioned the most popular science communicator, you thought of a guy, Bill Nye. I think one of the reasons why young women don't really think of themselves as a scientist because there's very little representation. The popular scientists on media is always Einstein.
Right.
In fiction, there's Iron Man.
Yeah,
but where
yeah.
are the female scientists, right? So I think we need to have more representation of women in media, portraying engineers, scientists, and astronauts. But I guess another factor is the field of STEM can be very physical. And here in the Philippines, I've always heard this statement whenever we go on field, like, Ma'am, kababae mong tao, bakit ka nandito sa putikan? Bakit ka nagbubuhat ng mabigat? It requires some physical prowess, which I think people would always associate to the male gender. But I think we women can carry our own weight. And I think it's about time that we shine in these male-dominated fields.
Definitely.
Yeah, you know, I love it. You're absolutely right. For me, I could be very wrong in this, but then for me, my favorite female science content creator, apart from you, is actually Dr. Tatiana. I think she from A&M. She teaches physics to kids and in a very active way. Do you feel that it's not just about, is there a lack of women actually pursuing the sciences, in your opinion? Is it because it's gendered, or maybe it's just not as friendly or as attractive? What do you think is the reasons why there is a gap in terms of the number, if there is any?
Well, when you look at the numbers at the level of college and even masters, you would see a lot of women in the STEM field.
Yeah.
But we see them going down as we go higher up in the ladder, in the administrative state and so on. And some of the reasons that have been ascribed to this is related to the traditional gender roles of women. Like a lot of us are, I guess the word is expected to have children at a certain age. Some of us are expected to stay at home and be homemakers. But when it comes to STEM, and I guess a lot of professions, if you disappear for a while, it seems like you have no place to go back to. And I think we really have to reconsider some of these processes so that it's more welcoming to the natural inclinations of both men and women. Like we both should have the option of pursuing things outside of our professions and yet still go back given the talents and the contributions that we've had before that.
Now, Doc, everything you're doing is amazing, and I want to pivot and talk about the fishing community and how you're helping them. So you research about molecular biology, ecology, big data, and machine learning. I don't know if my brain's comprehending all of that, but how has your research with all of that helped the fishing communities and agriculture here in the Philippines?
Well, I grew up in the province of Bataan, and it's a fishing and farming province. And so all my life, I've been familiar with the sad fact that our fishers and farmers are among the poorest of the poor in the Philippines. Isn't it heartbreaking that the people who are growing and catching our food, they're the one who have nothing to eat on a day-to-day basis? And so when I started doing my research, I wanted to give back. I wanted to figure out how I can use the science that I'm doing to help them. And so when I started my dissertation, I was working with fishers from all over the Philippines. And they started talking about this problem on species identification. I was working on alimango. Delicious, right?
Crab. Yes, my favorite.
Yes, and we actually have 3 of the 4 species in the Philippines, but only 1 was profitable for our crab growers. But they couldn't identify the species that they were catching in the wild. So being a millennial and inspired by Pokemon, I wanted to have a Pokédex for these farmers so that they just point the camera at the crab and they would know what it is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, this makes me so happy. Like that sentence made me so happy. All right, please go on.
So what I did was I used the molecular techniques that I learned in the lab to identify the species of crabs and then did image analysis. And with the help of my partners from the College of Computer Studies, we created an app called Krabby Fire. That's now basically a Pokédex for crabs.
That is so cool. I
That,
love the
that makes
name.
me so happy. I'm now I forgot the name of the crab Pokemon.
Oh no, I
The
forgot
crab
his name.
Pokemon?
Yeah, there's two of them.
Yes,
Oh, I
yes.
forgot.
Oh my gosh. But
It's a
anyway,
rock
as
type
we
Pokemon, I
look,
think.
While you're researching,
Kingler,
Kingler
Yes.
and Krabby.
Yes. I think I like Krabby more.
Doc Chona, for our viewers, especially the young viewers out there who are thinking of getting into STEM and excelling in their beyond the academe, what is your advice for these young potential scientists?
It's not, you don't have to have genius IQ levels to be a scientist. It starts with curiosity, followed up with passion as well as resilience, in order for us to be part of the STEM community here in the Philippines. The recipe for success is just the never-ending desire to figure out solutions to the existing problems that we have and to use the scientific method to find solutions to those problems.
It's just so interesting. I mean, like, you talk about the problems, and a lot of it involve climate change. A lot of it
Yes.
involves pollution,
plastic,
and the battle against that. I know that you've made a crab identifier, but then when you talk about that part of the equation, just how do you approach it?
Well, in the case of science, it doesn't always have to be high-tech. Our experience in the field is it's always a combination of technology, tradition, that makes for that secret sauce to make innovations more effective. So in our field, we employ a technique called citizen science, because science is not just for scientists. We train everyone, students, fishers, members of the coastal communities, tour guides, to design experiments, collect data, and interpret that data into something that's meaningful. And it's very useful for combating climate change, plastic pollution, because as a coastal country, we have too much water and too much coastline to be studied just by scientists. But by equipping our citizens in trying to study these coastal ecosystems on their own, we can form an army of brilliant people who would be able to collect all the data needed to learn more about the problems that they are encountering.
It's just so great having you here, Doc Chona. I mean, like, obviously the most famous Filipina scientist is Maria Rosa. And hopefully you can get to that level very soon in terms of with all the work that you're doing. We talked about Bill Nye a while ago, we talked about Doc Tatiana, but then why not you in the future? Thank you so much for the education that you're providing, the help that you're giving, and encouraging and empowering all these young girls to get into science.
Yes, we really appreciate it, Doc. For our viewers who want to reach out, maybe join your advocacies, where can they find you?
Shiensha is on Facebook and on Instagram, and as well as on YouTube. So just join the word She and Ensha, and you'll be able to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Doc Chona. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.